And then obviously when we played it live, people went crazy and they loved the whole sound, and they were telling me, hey, are you going to record it, blah, blah, blah. So that inspired me to actually start doing this stuff. Obviously throughout the process, there's the fact that if you want to do something of quality, you're going to need money, especially in the recording arts industry. You have to record in the best studios, with the best equipment, with the best engineers, and the top musicians for the sound that you're trying to create. So the first challenge was just like, how do I come up with the money, and I was trying to find private investors, and that was like a super fail, and then thank God for Kickstarter.com, that I discovered it, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna try it. And I was so happy because there was a lot of people that believed in me that I didn't think would believe in me. And then it was cool because I also thought people believed in me, and I saw that they really did. So that was like the first challenge, was to be able to get that first, funding in place. But I still wasn't thinking like this was gonna be, with Grammy Award-winning artists or more than 100 musicians and signed to Universal. I was thinking like, cool, I get to do an album where I get to perform it locally at clubs. That was my mentality. But I was just I was trying to be such a perfectionist with the production that by the time that I finished it, the actual arrangements, I was like, wow, this sounds a lot better than the stuff that I hear out there. Why not, go that extra mile and try to get, the artists that I've always looked up to in this genre of music. It's like Tito Nieves, La India, John Succar, these guys that were seasoned artists that were bilingual and could pull this off, at the top level. So obviously I had no connections at the time, and I was like, you know what, let me just go to Google, and I was like, TitoNievesOnline.com, and then I went to like, okay, booking, email here, and then I contacted them, and then I would receive no response, and I was like, let me contact the fan club, and then I would write, and then it was like no response for like 2 or 3 months, and I was like, what's going on? And I sent like about 70 to 80 emails of the same thing, copy paste, from different emails. I created like 10 different email accounts. And so I just figured out, I was like, these people are probably ignoring me. Who's this guy? So just when I was about to sort of throw the towel on this whole thing, and I went back to the studio to start recording some more background vocals, there's this guy that just walks into the door, and he was like, I guess overhearing what we were doing in the studio, and he's like, hey, sounds great, and it was I Want You Back, which was like the first track that I really recorded the instrumentation for. And it was very up-tempo, it was like hot, And then he's like, he's sort of like, this guy was like very, animated and charismatic, and he was like, bro, like, this sounds great, who are you gonna get? I guess he wanted to sort of be involved in a way, and I was like, I was trying to get Tito Nieves to sing this song, but it's not gonna happen, so I'm just gonna record it locally with my musicians here. And I did know one artist, Kevin Ceballos, which was the first artist I recorded on here, which I was thinking of just doing the album with him. And then he's like, no way, Tito Nieves is my good friend, we go way back, and we've been working together for a really long time. I can't believe he didn't, get back to you, because I told him the whole story. And he was like, I'm gonna call him right now, and then he just picks up the phone and he calls him. And then I'm like, this guy's really calling Tito Nieves right now. and then he picks up, Tito picks up, he's like, hey, he puts him on speaker, he's like, hey, look, man, I have this project, blah, blah. He's like, oh, speak to my manager, because I'm busy right now. So then he puts his manager, which is ex-wife at the time, his wife at the time, and then she starts communicating with him, and then she recognizes the project from the emails that I had sent. And then she's like, oh yeah, I had been receiving these emails, but I never got back to him because, Tito's not really interested in doing something of Michael Jackson's music. Plus, he's working on his own record and stuff. And then she was like, we're not interested, And then he was like, but did you listen to the track, And then she said no, which was like the key thing here. And he was like, oh, no, you have to listen to the track. Listen to the track. If you don't want to do it, that's fine, but just get him to listen to the track. And then she's like, okay, we'll listen to it next week. No, she was like, yo, you have to listen to it right now. I'm going to send it to you right now. And then he was like, if you don't listen to it right now, that means that, you don't really care for what I have to say, because this is like the best thing I've heard in like years. And he was like this super charismatic, And then she was like, okay, just send it to me right now, like right now. So and he's like, dude, here's the email. And then I just sent it to him right now. And literally like 2 to 3 minutes passed. Like they didn't even finish listening to the song, and they were calling us back already. And then it was Irma, you know, his wife, and she was like, oh my God, we're in 100%. This is perfect sound. Tito's going crazy. He loves the track. And then that's when the whole entire snowball effect happened. And then, you know, he was like, he really wanted to be involved, and then he wanted to help me out because it was like an independent project. He was like, oh, who else do you want on the project? And then he was like, oh, La India's super good friends with me. And then he called her, and he recommended Jean Rodriguez and all these other artists. And it was sort of a domino effect after that. So, like, that was a super big accomplishment. And it was, you know, it was a thing from God, because I mean, I tried my best, you know, but the whole thing was like not to give up, you know, like just to, you know, you never know what can happen. And the good thing is that I was prepared. I was prepared to send the track, and it was at the level of quality that it needed to be. And then that's when the whole spectrum changed, you know, because now instead of just being this local Miami salsa band project, now it was like international artist, compilation album, concept album, and then that was that, you know. That was a huge obstacle to overcome. And then that's like a super small, I guess, thing to overcome compared to the licensing that we had to do for this record. It was like insane. It was 2 years of a lot of political work in a way, which was something I wasn't expecting. You know, I come from music, you know, and when you're in school, they train you to be the best musician that you can be as a musician. But, you know, you have no idea of what the real world is if you want to create a project and stuff. So when I had to get the licenses for this stuff, after I had recorded everything and mixed the record, you know, and recorded all these artists and gone through the you know, recording in New York and Puerto Rico and Texas and Peru and Miami, Orlando, and all these different cities to get the musicians that I needed, the artists, you know, for you to send the music to, you know, to the publishers, and for them to tell you, you can't release this, you know, period. We can't give you the licenses for this stuff. And you're just like, you just want to kill yourself, you know, at that point. So that was insane. And then I went through different phases on just that itself, because I had to see how I was going to do it. So I had to contact, you know, an attorney, one of the top attorneys in town, which I'm still with. But it was crazy because in the beginning, when I told her what I was going through, she told me, well, Tony, unfortunately, you've chosen the most difficult catalog you know, that exists to mankind next to the Beatles, you know. So then I was like, well, what can we do? There has to be a way. And she was like, well, we just have to keep trying. So then she tried and tried and tried and tried, and then my attorney bills would keep going, and there was no results, and I was like, I want to kill myself even more. So then she recommended to me, she was like, Tony, you know what? Why don't you put this to the side and work on your own project for now, and then come back to it after you have a bigger name. And then I was like, no way, you know, I can't do that. So I had to figure out another way, you know. If my attorney herself was telling me that, I was like, either I do actually give up, or do I go the extra mile and try to figure this out. So I had to do that. And the next choice that I had was just to talk to different people and see if I could try to get to the family or something. And then I met a person, you know, that recommended me this other person that says that, oh, I know the family, you know, Catherine's my good friend, and Jermaine and all these guys. I could take them to the project, they'll bless it, and I'm sure the publishers will grant you licenses. And I was like, great, how do we do this, you know? He's like, okay, just send me the music, and oh, the music sounds fantastic and all this stuff. And then when you get to that point where you're like, okay, let's do this, you know, he tells you, oh, but you know, this is my time, and there's a consulting fee for this. You know, like, oh my God, are you serious? So he's like, what's your consulting fee? And it's like, oh, it's $5,000. I'll charge you $5,000 because you're coming up, and you know, and I want to help you out. So at the point where I was so desperate, you know, I was just like, you know what? I think it's worth it. You know, it's worth to try, because right now I have nothing to lose. It's either that or, you know, I throw this project away, which was a lot more money and a lot more time. So then I do that, and you know, I tell him, at least let me give you 50%. You know, I don't want to give you 100% until it's actually delivered. So I send you know, a check for $2,500, and I never hear from him again. to this day. The guy's gone, completely disappeared from the planet. And at that point, that's the point where you just like completely want to throw a towel on everything. And I didn't even want to tell my parents. I didn't want to tell anyone because I felt so embarrassed because of like, you know, when you get scammed, you didn't want to tell anyone. So I just held it all in. And then that's when I got the courage to say, you know what, now I really have nothing to lose. And I'm just going to write a letter to the top person that controls everything, all things Michael Jackson, which his name is John Branca, the executor of everything, which is like almost impossible to get to. And I went back to my attorney and I told her what happened. And she was like, I told you, Tony, like you can't be doing this, you know, like. And then I told her, oh, I'm going to write a letter to John Branca. And she was like, well, you can try, you know. The guy gets 1 million letters and 1 million calls, and, you know, he's working with Cirque du Soleil, and, you know, for him to respond to you is going to be almost impossible. But, hey, you know, you're free to do what you need to do. Because she wasn't going to write it for me. I said, all right, cool. So I write it myself, and I just write him a nice one-page letter, and with the CD, you know, with the album. And I said, this is my last chance, you know. And I just sent it off to his office. And like 3 weeks later, I just get a response from him through email, through John Branca. And it was the most nice letter and response I'd ever read like in a long time. You know, I was freaked out. I was like, oh my God. It was like, this project is fascinating. You know, I really don't understand why you can't get the licenses. Let's schedule a call and let's talk this through. So I spoke to his paralegal, Karen Langford, and I was like super shaking on the phone, you know. I was like really nervous because it was like do or die at that point. And she was a lovely person. She said, hey, as long as you don't, you know, use Michael Jackson's face on this project, you know, the music sounds great, you know, we'll make it happen. And literally minutes later, you know, Sony TV and everything just like doors opened up. It was like the light, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, this project is great. You know, the whole political thing was going on there, you know, and they granted me all the licenses with no problem. And then when that happened, then that's when the labels found out. Then I had finally got the licenses, and then there was like sharks, you know, like Shark Tank, you know, and then that's when I was like, I'm in a good place, you know. And then that's when the whole tug of war thing came in with the labels, and I had to like really put in my thinking cap, and my attorney was like, yeah, you know, and everybody in the team was like, yeah, you know. So we got through that. So, and then now it's a new set of obstacles, you know. Now working on the touring, and we have a PBS special that I've been working on for 2 years that I've been wanting to produce, and I finally got the green light from PBS, and we're gonna be shooting that in July. Super excited about that. It's like one of, you know, for the arts festival. To give you an idea, last year they had the Cheek to Cheek Live, Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga special, and this year they're gonna have Unity. So super excited about that.